Well, welcome to our Bible session today. I hope all is doing well. Remember your prayer list. Continue praying for people. Just so many things, our world, our country, and other countries, people, and our groups. And continue praying for those unspoken prayer. And for goodness sakes, always remember to thank God for all the good things He's done. Now, we're looking at Israel, the history of Israel, because it's important to us. The Jewish people sort of sets a pattern of things that we see throughout the world, and it's important for us to know what's going on there. Today, we're going to look at the periods of the patriarchs in Israel. Now, remember, there's three main people that everything seems to flow from that time. We're going to look at those in this first part here. Now, the period of the patriarchs in Israel was around 2000 to 1700 BC. It is a foundational stage in the history of the Jewish people. It was marked by life and deeds of three key figures: Abraham, his son Isaac, and his grandson Jacob. Now, when we think about this, we think about these three people. So, sort of set the stage. Even though we had Noah and others, these three people are three that really reflects a lot about Israel. Now, this period that we're speaking of lays the groundwork for the formation of the Jewish identity, culture, religion, and serves as the beginning of the biblical narrative that we have and understand today. The historical context of this is the period of the patriarchs began in an era when the Middle East was a place of this complex migration processes and political changes, as you will see. Now, there was different people in tribes that were moving across the region, creating conditions totally different than what they had been. For they were creating stuff like the conditions for the emergence of the new culture and the new religious ideals. Things were changing, sort of like relates to today. You know, it is in this particular time and context that's the story of the patriarchs developed that we are understanding and reading today and studying today, who became the founders of Israel's people and, of course, the faith. Abraham, we start with him, which was the founder of the covenant. Remember, God said, "I'll bless you and make your descendants as the number of the sands of the sea." Abraham, the first patriarch, was born in a place called Ur of the Chaldees. And he became known for the covenant that he had, that God had given him, which I just said. And according to the Bible, God called Abraham to leave homeland and go to Canaan and the land that God promised to his descendants. Now think about this. He just told Abraham, you know, you are to go and I'll tell you where. He didn't tell him anything. Abraham, totally on faith, picked up everything and did what God said, and he ended up into the land of Canaan, which was the land of milk and honey that he spoke to the Israelites about after the 40 years wandering in the wilderness. Now, this moment became pivotal in the history of Israel, and it is with him that the concept of this covenant that we speak of between God and the Israelites started and began. Abraham became a symbol of faith, and his story is filled with significant events all the way from A to Z in it. He rescued the tribes of Sodom and Gomorrah. He made a covenant with King Melchizedek, and demonstrated hospitality to the angels. Remember, three angels came to go to Sodom and Gomorrah, and he opened his door and greeted them and gave them a place to stay. Now, his faith and devotion to God became an example for future generations and an example for us. Then, of course, Isaac came along. Isaac was the son that he wanted, and he came along, the one that he was going to sacrifice. Isaac was the one that continued on with the covenant. Isaac, the son of Abraham and Sarah, continued his father's legacy, doing the things that his father was done. His story includes many significant Events such as his near sacrifice on Mount Moriah, where Abraham, at God's command, was ready to sacrifice his son, was stopped by an angel, and God had placed a ram in bushes and was trapped there, and Abraham took him and sacrificed him instead of Isaac. Then Isaac, of course, married a young lady by the name of Rebekah. And their marriage became an important part of the patriotic family history. Isaac and Rebekah had two sons, Esau and Jacob. Remember, Jacob deceived the father, Isaac, and took the blessing that Esau. Of course, Esau basically, sort of let it slip, and Jacob ended up with it. Their relationship and the conflict between these two brothers, particularly deception by Jacob, who received his father's blessing, became key moments in the future history of the Israelite people. Jacob was known as a wrestler with God. Jacob, the third patriarch, became known for his complicated relationship with his brother Esau and for marrying two sisters, Leah and Rachel. His stories are full of symbolism and deep, deep meaning, including the moment when he wrestled with God and received his new name of Israel, which means wrestler with God. The event symbolizes not only his personal struggles, but also the collective fight of the Israelite people for their identity. It never has stopped, even goes on today. Jacob's children, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, we've heard a lot about them. They play an important role in our future. From Jacob and his wives were born 12 sons who became the founders of the 12 tribes of Israel. These tribes formed the basic of the Jewish people and their father's history. Each tribe had its own name, character, and territory, and their faith will be significant throughout biblical history and even today. And then we go to the migration of Egypt. Jacob's family faced this famine. And that's where they were forced to leave Canaan and migrate to Egypt, where Joseph was one of the high people. Remember, his brothers sold him into slavery because he had told them about how they would end up worshiping him and things like that, and they didn't like it, so they sold him into slavery. But anyway, Joseph was one of Jacob's sons, and probably his number one, had become an important figure in Egypt's society, and this tradition began the starting point of the future Exodus and the formation of the Jewish identity in Egypt. That's where Moses goes and gets them out of bondage and takes them to cross over into the promised land, and they won't. They spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness. And of course, while they were in the wilderness, Moses did some things against God, and God would let him go, and of course he let Jacob take him in. So we stop there, and we're going to look at the spiritual legacy of the patriarchs as we proceed on. Remember, Israel is an important country to you and I. We need to know about them. God bless, and I'll see you next time.